Today on Locked On Red Wings, should Detroit go pilfering in Pittsburgh? Rakell, Rust, and Karlsson may be on the trade block, and that might be the best of what's left available for the Detroit Red Wings.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, happy Monday. Happy Tuesday, sorry. We are recording on Monday, but happy Tuesday for the listeners. Hope you had a fantastic start to your week. We were recording this prior to the time. Am I going to see Scooble on Friday, by the way? I'm going to see that game.
I don't know, man. I can find out, but off the top of my head, I have no clue.
Man, you've really lost your oracle powers over the last couple of years,
Tuesday,
man.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yes.
They don't play Thursday, though.
Yeah, they do.
I thought they were off this Thursday.
You're right.
Bang! I'm the host of Locked On Tigers now.
Is that how that works?
That's how that works.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, then no.
That's disappointing. Just as disappointing as the Red Wings free agent. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that dramatic. But Scotty, there has been, I don't even want to call it rumblings, but I think we've all seen the posts from the quote-unquote insider on social media talking about the potential of an Erik Karlsson trade. I don't want to, put it out there for the people, put the guy out there. But I think that it is a option for the Detroit Red Wings because of the fact that Kyle Dubas has been very open with the fact that he's open for business and selling off assets. The Pittsburgh Penguins may be the only team in the NHL actively tanking at this moment. Is there any other team off the top of your head that you can think of that is openly tanking as of July 7th, 2025?
I guess not.
So your options are very limited on the market right now, especially the trade market.
Yeah.
Free agency didn't go the way they went.
To look at it. I don't know.
Right, because your teams that are your bottom feeders right now are all trying to get better. Now, come trade deadline, there are going to be teams selling off assets, but we as Red Wings fans don't want to wait until the trade deadline or December whenever teams realize that they're out and they want to tank for McKenna. You don't want to wait until then to add an impactful piece now. So your options after free agency and everybody kept their players and with the cap rising so teams aren't cap strapped, your options are very limited as to whom you could pursue in the free agent market, in the trade market. Keandre Miller's gone. Bowen Byram, I don't know what the situation is going on there. Pittsburgh has 3 players at least that have been rumored to be out there for trade acquisition. That is Rakell, Brian Rust, and Erik Karlsson. If you are the Pittsburgh Penguins, it makes sense this year to just go full teardown. You talk with Sidney Crosby and just go, hey, this just isn't working, and we need to start building towards the future. We'd love to have you on board if we can get McKenna in the door. But to do that, we got to tear this thing down. Would you want any of Rakell, Rust, or Karlsson, Scotty?
Sure. I feel like there's a lot of nuance with this conversation. Yeah, sure, but I'm not sending the farm. I'm not right. I'm not emptying the tank to get them. But this is a team that we have highlighted a lot this summer that they desperately need to find other ways to improve. And I think any of those guys would be improvements, whether it's just everybody moves down a peg behind them, you're improving depth, or whether it's, you're banking on kind of another great year, maybe from somebody like Karlsson. Sure. I'm fine with it. I don't want that to get misconstrued as this is the only answer and we need to hyper focus on this and make sure that we give up, 3 top prospects to get any of those guys. Cause I don't need it that badly, but they'd be improvements. Sure.
I think that's a very good TLDW, too long didn't watch, for like this whole conversation we're about to have. It's like the answer is yes, but with a lot of mitigating factors for each of these individual players, right? And let's start with Erik Karlsson, for instance. Like, that's the guy that people are talking about on social media right now because, again, this quote-unquote insider who I'm just not sold is legit as of yet, but it's enough to get the buzz going on social media to get people talking about it. Erik Karlsson, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, and I found this out myself, already has been retained money once with San Jose. So his cap hit is currently $10 million for the Pittsburgh Penguins, even though his salary is $11.5 million. He's got 2 more years left at that. He's 35 years old. I'm not going to come on here and try and sell you that Erik Karlsson is the answer. Erik Karlsson is who Erik Karlsson is, and he has been his whole career, even at 35. He is a 95 percentile on offense and a 3 percentile on defense this past year, according to Evolving Hockey. Hockey Stat Cards had his offense at plus 14 and his defense at minus like 12.5 for an overall of plus 1.5. So as of last year, his offense just barely outpaced his poor defense. If you were to acquire a guy like Erik Karlsson, would he make you better? Yes. In one aspect. It also makes your life a little bit more difficult in others. But while this team's defense... Go ahead.
Would it? I guess my point is, like, is our blue line really good enough to be like, oh yeah, like, his poor defense is going to cost the Wings? We're going to send Ben Sherratt out on the top pair on opening night, dude. Like, I don't know. I agree with your sentiment. I'm not saying you're wrong in your, like, analysis of the player. I just don't think this Red Wings blue line is talented enough to be like, oh, well, you know, he's going to make the defense worse. Really? He's going to make this blue line worse. Really? Because
he will, and let me tell you why. Because if you have Erik Karlsson, he is your second pair right side D-man, which means you're sheltering your second pair now the same way we were sheltering Shane Gostisbehere 2 seasons prior. And what that means is now Moritz Seider goes back. That top pair goes back to playing the type of minutes and deployment it got 2 years before that. You're basically really depending on Simon Edvinsson to hold up the heavy lifting on that second pair. But again, the offense does outweigh how porous his defense is. And this team's 5-on-5 scoring did desperately hurt last season as well. So yes, this team needs to get better defensively, but they also need to improve their 5-on-5 scoring. And Erik Karlsson brings that. He had 50-plus points this last season, which would have led your defense in points. He's played 82 games for 3 consecutive seasons, so his injury history is kind of moot at this point. He's played every game the last 3 years, and he won the Norris Trophy, which I think was kind of crazy a couple seasons ago for 100-plus points in San Jose, but he was just freewheeling at that point. That team was awful. He was just doing what he wanted. He wasn't necessarily playing in a structure. So would I take Erik Karlsson on the 2025-2026 Red Wings? Yes, with a heavy asterisk on what the return of that trade would have to look like and what the salary retention would have to look like as well, because you'd be getting him for 2 more years. Well, one this year and the season after that.
Yeah.
So it's just, where do you begin with what kind of trade you'd be willing to accept for an Erik Karlsson?
There's just so many moving parts. Like, if you are going to if you're going to put him on the second pair, then and then shelter that pair, then you should just put Edvinsson at the top with Seider.
Oh God, no, I disagree, man. You can't put Sherratt and Karlsson together. In what? No way.
If you're going to shelter him and only play him in the offensive zone, then what's even the point of having Edvinsson and Karlsson? Period. That's useless. You're completely pissing away Edvinsson at that point.
Your Edvinsson, actually, I would argue it's more like a trial by fire for Simon Edvinsson to have to try and be the safety valve for Erik Karlsson. Then don't shelter
them. Right. That's fine.
And this is where we're running into the problem.
You can't shelter them.
Yeah, this is where you're running into the problem.
You have to take the harness off and let Karlsson be Karlsson and let Edvinsson be the defensive I don't know what. The defensive anchor, I guess, of that pair. Like I don't know. And then like if Gustafsson is still on the third pair, like he's gonna be the guy that is deployed like that. Like I'm not sure this makes any sense. I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with like the deployment of how this would even work. I'm not really sure this schematically makes any sense, I guess.
I'm glad you brought up Gustafsson because that's exactly where my mind was going right when you said it, in that it completely makes Gustafsson redundant. In that you brought Gustafsson in to be one of your power play quarterbacks. You have Karlsson, he's your PP1 quarterback. Sider's your PP2 quarterback. Why do you have Gustafsson at that point? So if you're going to make this trade, in my eyes, Gustafsson has to be one of the players going back the other way because his role has been completely nullified on this team. That, or you make a super offensive pair in Gustafsson and Karlsson, and you just say, you know what? Screw defense.
Awesome.
5 forwards on the ice.
They just go, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to put only offense out there. I don't know. That's got to be electric, to be honest. Obviously, that I don't know if that's a sustainable thing.
God, no.
We say that more in jest, but that would be kind of sick. Like, that'd be kind of fun to watch, at least.
Absolutely. We got to head to a quick break. When we come back, I want to ask you a question about trade packages for Karlsson, for this to make sense. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're always following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. New to FanDuel, new customers can get $5. Bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. So, trade packages for all 3 of these players. We haven't touched on Rakell or Rust yet, but all 3 of these players, like a first-round pick going back the other way, especially in this draft, would make me feel very queasy. And not to like sound hypocritical and go back on what I'm saying all summer, like Yzerman needs to make a swing. And again, I would take each of these players under the right circumstances. But as one of my friends told me recently, there is a difference between taking a swing and being stupid. And I would feel really uncomfortable giving up a first-round pick for any 3 of these players because none of these 3 players are part of this team's long-term future. They are shorter-term fixes, shorter to mid-term fixes, right? 2 years left on Karlsson, 3 years on Rakell and Rust. If I were to give up a first-round pick, there would have to be conditions attached because this is the McKenna draft. If the Red Wings bottom out or for whatever reason they're fortunate enough to move up in the draft lottery, I would at minimum, if I'm going to attach a first-round pick, which makes me queasy just on the baseline, but if I were to attach a first-round pick, it would have to be top 10 projected. Full stop. If the Red Wings end up drafting top 10, it becomes a 2027 first. Without, just full stop. That is the only way. If a first is the starting line for one of these trades for a rebuilding Pittsburgh Penguins team, that is the only way I get it done. I would be happy if we can get it done without a first, but I just have such a poor sense for what these guys could be going for, and I'm sure that's where Pittsburgh's starting line is going to be. I need to have protections on that first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a similar breath, I might even be more extreme in the sense that, like, I'm not sure I would give up a first-round pick, period.
I mean, ideally, no. I agree.
Guys, I don't know. Again, this is such a weird conversation because there's so much nuance to it on both sides. I don't know. It would be a really tough sell for me to bring in Karlsson for a package that had a first round pick in it. That would be a really tough sell for me. Not that, again, I wouldn't be like, oh, look, like the 5-on-5 play will be better, the offense hopefully will be better. It improves the overall talent of the blue line. Certainly all those things are true, but for 2 years of a 35-year-old that doesn't play defense, I'm not really sure I want to fork over a first.
and is making $10 million.
And
11 and
the cap hit is going to be 10 mil.
Right. And so that's another thing, too. A full stop is I need 50% retained, which also just ups the value on the return that they're going to be getting. Because I know we have the space. I know the Red Wings have the space for Karlsson. I don't want to eat up the entire cap hit on 35-year-old Erik Karlsson.
Sure.
If it's 50% retained, so you're getting him at $5 million for the next 2 seasons, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. I can live with that. But then to get that 50% retained for Pittsburgh, you then also have to up the package to them. And I mean, in an ideal world, I'd do like a second William Wallinder and Jonathan Berggren, or Erik Karlsson, or I'm sorry, Erik Karlsson, Erik Gustafsson, because it nullifies his role in the team. Like, that's what I would do, like a B tier prospect, a second round pick, and a roster player you don't need anymore. But this is an EA NHL. I don't think Pittsburgh would want that. So I really struggle to see how a trade makes sense unless it's just straight highway robbery on Yzerman's part, unless Dubas realizes that because of that cap hit, the value of Karlsson's really tanked and he takes less for it. But if he does, it wouldn't be until the trade deadline anyways. But that's all I got on the Karlsson thing. We can move on to Rakell and Rust. I think the conversation with them, I'm a little bit more comfortable with. Rakell and Rust are actually really funny because they're almost identical in that they're 33 and 32 respectively. They're both on their 3rd year of a 6-year contract, 4th year of a 6-year contract. Apologies. Rakell makes $5 million. He plays right wing, I think, mostly. Check me on that if I'm wrong. Brian Rust plays right wing or left wing. He makes $5.1 million. And Brian Rust had 65 points in 71 games, while Rakell had 70 points in 81 games. This is kind of a similar situation, but to a less extreme degree than Erik Karlsson. I like both their cap hits, especially with the rising cap. I think they make, like, their cap hit is definitely affordable. It's not terrible. They are short to mid-term solutions, stopgap solutions for your top 6 winger problem. It's just they're not part of the long-term solution, so I would be very hesitant on giving up too many future assets to attain either one.
Yeah, it's a rather similar conversation. They would certainly, as we kind of talked about was that yesterday's show? We talked about raising the floor, but not the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of what all of these feel like in a sense to me, is like, I think that they improve the depth more, that they would be fine additions and they could be plugged in the middle of your lineup card, immediately. But I'm also not completely sold on the idea that any of them are like the top end big swing that we are asking for this offseason either. So yeah, like it's just a weird conversation. We're like, yeah, I'd be more than fine with any of them being inserted into the Wings lineup card. Absolutely. But yeah, there's still just more room to go, I feel like.
It's funny, too, because they just profile so similarly in so many ways between their contracts, their age, their position, their production. Brian Rust is an 84 percentile offense, according to Evolving Hockey, and he's 1 percentile for defense. Like, just abysmal, right? Like, he is a one-way forward, but he played 84 minutes of PK time with the Pittsburgh Penguins this last year, playing on their second penalty kill, sometimes sliding in on penalty kill 1. I mean, I can't claim that I watched it. I have to talk to Hunter from Locked On Penguins to get a better understanding of what that is. His even strength defense is abysmal, but he played on the penalty kill. Meanwhile, Rakell, who has a 86 percentile for defense, did not play any penalty kill time. But his even strength defense, like, he profiles according to Evolving Hockey. Again, this is just looking at data points, not actually watching the player. But this gives me the impression that he's a better two-way winger, but he didn't play any PK. Right. So that whole thing just is funny to me. But both of them, again, it's like the same deal where I'd be much more comfortable acquiring either of these guys. And again, they're wingers. They're less impact than defense or centers, but they're younger by several years than Erik Karlsson, so they have more productive years still in them. They'd be short-term solutions for your top 6 winger problem. It's just again the package. I don't want to give up a first for either of these guys. Can you get one of these guys without giving up a first? Then cool, do it. Or a premier prospect, cool, do it. But I just feel like right now where we're at in the off season that Dubas is going to be asking for high, especially with limited off assets, and not really want to come down off of it until closer to the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think I'm so done with like whatever Pittsburgh is doing. Like I don't know, dude. If they want to completely just tear it down now, then like there you go. And I guess to your point that they aren't forced to, so they could just have a high price and kind of be like, we're not moving off of it. But then you're kind of risking the performance of the players. You kind of have to bank on the players to have good first halves leading up to the deadline in order to get the return you do want for them. And it's going to be, less control because, like, again, a bunch of nuance there too. I don't know. I feel like with especially the guy, somebody like Karlsson who's 35, like you might just want to offload him while you can. And I'm especially for $10 million of a cap hit. And I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what Pittsburgh is doing. Is really kind of my overall like thought on this. So I don't want to give up again the farm for any of these guys, but they certainly would help the Wings in some capacity.
Yeah, it's almost as if as we continue to talk, we're transitioning from yes with a heavy asterisk to no unless, which I think is probably more appropriate to where our mindset is. It's like no unless these things go right. So yeah, that's where we're at on those guys, those players. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have anything else to say on any of those three. Scotty, we have one more segment left. Red Wings hired a new goalie coach. We'll talk about Michael Leighton and the interesting history behind him in segment 3. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, Red Wings hired Michael Leighton as their new goalie coach on Monday, July 7th. He played 111 games in the NHL between Chicago, Philadelphia, Carolina, and is that it? Did I miss any? I believe that's all 4 of them. Oh, Nashville, too, as well. He played a very short one-game stint in Nashville. He is an AHL Hall of Fame inductee as of this year, and he was, up until the moment of his hire, the OHL Windsor Spitfires of the OHL's goaltending coach as well. He comes into the Detroit locker room to try and maximize the potential of the Red Wings tandem that is Talbot and Gibson. What are you hoping to see out of the goaltending tandem with Michael Leighton at the helm?
Good goaltending. Dude, I mean, this is, yeah, like obviously something that they said they were going to change earlier in the summer. And I think that sometimes as sports fans in general, too much blame or almost like it's like a scapegoat situation sometimes with positional or just like area specific coaches. If you want to go after the head coach, by all means, like that's their job. They're in charge of everything. Everything goes back to them. I think that, strategy, et cetera, like that makes a lot more sense. But when you're talking about like, was the Wings goalie situation bad last year because they had a bad goalie coach? No, dude. Like it's because they didn't have good goalies. That is why it was all over the place. So like obviously you get a new coach in the room, you get Gibson. Hopefully those things lead to a better year. But I'm not putting like the weight of the success between the pipes on his shoulders. I just hope that he's a positive influence and that the goalies like working with him. That's pretty much the baseline for me at this point.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because I never am sure how much things like goalie coaches really affect a goalie, like just flat out. I would like to see the area I would focus on the most is actually the penalty kill. I don't know how Leighton can improve upon this, but Cam Talbot last season was one of the worst goalies on the penalty kill. His save percentage last year was 14th worst in the entire NHL, and that's not even accurate because that's based on time on the ice equaling 0. So players who came in for like 5 seconds.
But is that just because they had the worst penalty kill I've ever seen in my life?
It's probably a mix of both.
Yeah.
So if I switch this over now to a minimum of 100 minutes played on the penalty kill, Cam Talbot is the second worst save percentage, 788 save percentage. John Gibson, Scotty, as much as we've praised that move, fourth worst save percentage on the penalty kill at 800. Again, played for a very bad Anaheim Ducks team. It is both. We know this. We're not naive. We know it's not on the goaltender. I grew up playing defense. I know better than to blame the goalie, even when the goalie is at fault. I know better than to blame the goalie. It's just bad. It's bad business. So
ridiculous.
This is the area I'm focusing in on the most. And obviously you need the overall penalty kill to improve upon that. And I think the small changes that the Red Wings have made this offseason can help towards that. Plus you have a full offseason, a full training camp of Todd McClellan and his whole system to get in place. I don't think the PK can be as bad as it was last year. Although I say that in the monkey paw is curling. But that is where I am definitely most certainly looking for the most improvement is for John Gibson and Cam Talbot to literally not be the worst goalies in the league on the penalty kill. I think better defensive structure in front of them will help, but you also need them to not just be bad in that situation at the same time. Their expected goals against were far, far fewer than their actual goals they allowed in those situations too, if that helps you, realize too that they were unfortunately part of the issue in that situation.
Yeah.
You want Michael Leighton trivia?
Yeah, you can ask it. We already talked about it, but yeah.
Did I already spoil it on the air? I know I talked about it before.
No. I'm saying to me personally, off the air.
Well,
you can
I'm
ask
saying
it to listeners.
I'm saying it to you, but I'm really asking it to the listeners. You're supposed to just play along, Scotty.
I'm supposed to answer on behalf of other people,
yes,
but not actually participate.
All right, let's start over. You play ignorant. Scotty, would you like to know a fun fact about Michael Leighton?
I would love to, Bri.
Okay, awesome. Michael Leighton, the Red Wings' new goaltending coach, was the goaltender in net in the 2010 Stanley Cup Final, with the goal that Patrick Kane scored to win the 2010 Stanley Cup, that puck that infamously went missing. So now we have reunited Michael Leighton and Patrick Kane 15 years later.
No way.
Isn't that crazy, dude?
I had never heard that before. No, it is cool, though. I saw the tweet.
I don't know how cool it is for Michael Leighton, though.
Yeah, well, true. The tweet kind of making the rounds with the pictures and the disappearing puck video and pictures and stuff again. So yeah.
Every single time Michael Leighton sees Patrick Kane, he just relives that moment in the 2010 Stanley Cup Final.
I would imagine not, because I would imagine if that was true, he wouldn't have taken the job. But I mean, I don't know the guy, maybe.
But yeah, so Red Wings made the last coaching coaching job they had to fill. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think they asked Yzerman about it the other day, and he was just like kind of laissez-faire about it. Didn't really answer the question, but knew it was going to get filled at some point. So yeah, that's about it. Scotty, final thoughts?
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.